You say you're from Pennsylvania. So kind of describe to me, I guess, like what your hometown was like back then, because I know it's completely different now.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely different from Nashville. So where I grew up, I was actually one of only two or maybe three Black families that grew up in my exact neighborhood. So it was not a huge population of Black kids growing up. So of course, then when I would be around other Black kids in the city, they'd be like, "Well, you talk white, you do," it was this whole thing when I was growing up. But it was a great environment because there was just a lot of like places for my parents to take me to explore. We used to go to museums, and like I mentioned, computer camps and things of that nature. But what got me down to Nashville was I actually went on a college tour when I was in high school, and we did a college tour, like a HBCU college tour, where I got to see schools all across like the East Coast pretty much. I knew from like watching Different World and then also knowing that my parents went to an HBCU that I wanted to go to HBCU. And so it was more of a matter of figuring out what HBCU aligned with the things I was looking for. And which at that point, I didn't know what I was looking for. I was looking for like a great campus, a thing that had a good, place that had a nice major, and then where I could have fun. And luckily I went to TSU, or Tennessee State University, on a Wednesday, and you know about those Wednesdays. And I fell in love with the campus. And it was at that moment when I came to visit, they had a great chemistry program. The campus was beautiful. The people were friendly, that I decided that, you know what, I'm going to apply and see if I can, take my talents down there. So probably, I don't know, maybe like February, March timeframe, I found out that I got accepted, and then was able to, put all the wheels in motion to get me from down to Nashville. I've lived away from Pittsburgh at this point in my life longer than I actually lived there, because after high school, I haven't lived there since then, and have now been kind of in a variety of different places since the time I grew up there.
Okay, well, yeah, no, that's cool. I was definitely gonna kind of get into that and see what kind of drove you to, like you said, you had the HBCU tour. So I'm gonna ask you what kind of drove you to TSU. So back when you were young, you already had that mindset that you were gonna go to well, not TSU, but once you go to college, you're gonna already be a chemist, or I'm gonna study chemistry or something like that.
Well, so what got me into chemistry, so like I said, my parents were scientists, and so they encouraged me exploring things. They encouraged me to be, the nerd or whatever. But of course, when I was in high school, I was not feeling it, right? Yeah. I didn't want to be known as the nerd. I didn't want to be, so I rebelled quite honestly, very hard. And then until my grade year, I took my first chemistry class. So I took biology maybe like 9th grade, and I did okay, as good as I could, whatever. But then 10th grade, this was really the pivotal moment and when I knew I was going to do chemistry. So at that time, I had, was good in math. I liked science, but I was still in that rebellious phase. I didn't want to be the smart girl. And so I was just doing the enough to get by. But the pivotal moment for me, how I got to chemistry, my chemistry teacher in 10th grade pulled me to the side at our like 9-week check-in. The first, we used to have 9-week check-in. So like first 9 weeks, second 9 weeks, third 9, so forth. So the first 9-week check-in, he pulled me to the side and he was like, okay, so, my parents are over there. And he was like, so you see this set of grades, these grades, these are all the A's, these are the B's, so forth. But he was like, you see this last A. Well, this A is you. And he was like, now, technically, you didn't earn that A, but I see something in you that tells me that you could earn that A. Mm-hmm. And something in me like clicked, like, well, wait a minute. I don't want somebody just giving me something. Like, I too know I can do this. I'm just like, I'm not turning assignments. I'm not coming to class as often as I'm supposed to be, because again, I don't want to be the nerd. And something in me like literally clicked at that moment that I was like, oh no, I'm not here for handouts. Like I'm gonna earn this grade here on out. And so literally after that day, I started putting all my efforts forth, like, and doing the work and actually turning in the work, which was important to get the grade, right? And from there on, he actually started inviting me to actually come back and be like a lab assistant for him in later years. And he really just, poured into me as a mentor to let me know that, hey, this is something that do, you are more than capable. This is something you should consider pursuing. And so I loved that particular teacher, Mr. Stackowitz. His teaching style was just it was kind of off the wall. A lot of students didn't really like him because he was like very in your face, very like, I'm gonna have this like explosion going off over here. But for me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And so I found myself starting to emulate a lot of his teaching style when I started working with students, because he started letting me tutor students and everything like that. And so it was probably at the end of my 10th grade year going into my 11th grade year that I decided, okay, I'm gonna do chemistry. I like chemistry over any of the other sciences that I took because it combined math, which I was really strong in, and the basic sciences. And I decided at that point, I went to TSU actually to major in chemistry education. I was like, I'm going to be a chemistry teacher. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I want to help people become, familiar with chemistry. And so that, really that moment, like literally is like ingrained in my mind as to how I got into chemistry. So like my parents, they were actually engineers. They're nuclear engineers, and I hated physics. And so that's why I didn't go that route. But my teacher, he's the person that really got me into chemistry. And then a lot of the teachers that I had at TSU just kept feeding into that this idea that I could be a really strong chemist. And that ultimately led me to finishing my degree.